Alright, welcome to a review of the Vallejo Thick Mud. This is Vallejo's basing texture, and just for a quick comparison, this is a absolutely huge container of it. Here's a tiny little pot of Citadel paint, and here's a tiny little pot of Army Painter paint. This really is 200 mils, or a little bit over 6 fluid ounces of basing texture paste. So if you've never used this before, this is very similar to a lot of the Citadel texture pastes that you find, like Astro Granite and that kind of thing. It's just in a lot bigger can. That said, this did cost me, I think, about $15, and so it's not, cheap, but it's about the price of two of the Citadel pots, and you get what, 10 times? I don't know, it's a lot. You get not quite 10 times the amount. You definitely get more than 5 times. So what I've done is I've put it on this base, and this is it dried, and you can kind of see the texture here that it leaves behind. So if you want this to be sand or just kind of an earthy ground or whatever, here it is. This is on a Star Wars Legion base. You can see kind of that texture there. Here I have a few other bases, these smaller bases. I've tried to, put some cool ridges and designs on. You can kind of see that there. Though I admit the shadows in my studio are few and far between with all the lights that I have on. One thing I do prefer to do with my texture bases is do the texture before gluing the model on. So here I have a battle droid from Star Wars Legion. I've textured the base just like these in the background. And then I super glue on the droid, and then I'll prime it and paint it all as one piece. That's just my preference. Depends on what you want the ground to look like. I did this because I want to have the droid look like it's walking on top of the ground. If you glue it to the base first, the model first, and then you put the texture on, it will look more like it's sinking in to the ground. So what do I think of this? Well, I want to kind of show you what I think of this. I think this is actually working great. I'm going to say as well, if not better than, the Citadel pastes. And so let me kind of show you how this works. We're going to unscrew this lid here, and I have it on really tight because I absolutely do not want this giant tub of stuff to dry out. And you unscrew the lid here, and I've kept the seal. I just kind of set it back on top to help with that not drying out kind of thing. And there you've got the tub of texture paste down in there. So I just put the seal back down in the lid and just let it sit there. So what you want to make sure is you've got some kitchen towel or paper towel or whatever you want to call it, handy, or some kind of tissues or something here to wipe up any mess of this. I just got a little bit on my finger, so I'm just going to wipe it off real quick. How I do this then is I get out my super fancy and super expensive texture tool, which is a wooden coffee stir stick. These you can get at just about anywhere that they have coffee set out for people to use, for people to grab. And so whenever I'm at an event that has coffee, I throw a few of these in my pocket. Actually, I kept doing that, and then I felt bad about it, so I just bought a 100 pack, and it was, I think, $3. So what I do is I use this as a scoop, and then I scoop it onto the base like so. So let's kind of demonstrate that a little bit. Here I have a Star Wars Legion base, and I'm going to scoop this onto the base. I'm going to get a pretty big amount, and I'm going to stick it on there like so. And I'm going to stick it on, and I'm going to kind of spread it around. Now, Star Wars Legion players, you might already know what these lines are for on the base. There's these lines that go through the base. And those are actually important for the game of Star Wars Legion. I'm just learning how to play it. And apparently those are the firing arcs of the models that go on these larger bases. So the models that go on these larger bases, they can't just turn around on a dime like, we might be used to if you play a lot of Warhammer or something. And so we want to preserve those. So I'm going to show you a little trick for that too in this video. That's kind of the other purpose of this video. But as we're doing this, first let me just say I really love how this paste goes on. And what I usually do is usually use the end of the stick here, and I'll kind of push it up to the edge of the base. You kind of just push it up and push it up, but don't push it over. You want the edge to remain untextured, or at least I do. I'm not going to speak for you because you might have a way better way of basing your models that you're like, oh no, how I do it is I put the texture all the way on the edge and then paint it all one color because I like it to blend in. I've seen people do that. I think that looks pretty cool also. So I just like to get it up to the edge by just kind of pressing it up to the edge. Now you notice I got some pretty tall peaks on here you can't see as well with the camera. I do flatten those out pretty good. I do want this to be flat, but I still want it to have these kind of ridges. So there we go. So we're going to kind of finish up this base here. What do I like about this texture paste? The big thing I like about it is it comes in a big thing. So if you wanted to base your entire army, I don't care if it's Warhammer, Star Wars Legion, I don't really care what you play. If you want to base your entire army with the Citadel texture paste, you're going to be buying a bunch of them. Unless maybe you're just playing like Kill Team or Warcry, or you're basing a few figures, you're going to buy a bunch of them. And they are, I think they're going for the same price as the contrast. I think they're US about $7.80 a piece for the basing pastes from Citadel, which is kind of a lot of money. Especially when you need, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of the same thing. Well, for the price of about 2 of those, or maybe a little bit more, I got this entire thing of this Vallejo paste, and it is going to base my entire Star Wars Legion army. I'm making droids, I'm doing a Geonosian theme, and I am using this as the sand that they are on in Geonosis. And so we're going to kind of scrape that off. I know that's kind of not a great thing over there, but I need more paste on here to push around. So you see, you've got plenty of working time with this. I would leave it to dry overnight before you do anything with it, but we'll see here. I do want to show you this little technique, and we'll just do that here in just a moment as I am finishing up the paste on the base. Okay, so I've got the paste all the way to the edges. Now I'm going to go back and do this. All right, so that's what I like about this paste, is it's not super expensive. And I think it behaves just as well, if not maybe a little better. It's a lot creamier, it's less textured, I think, but I think I want that. Okay, so I've got a lot on my thing here. I'm going to scrape that off into the can. We're going to save that for another day. And then I'm going to kind of try to spread this a little, I'm going to kind of smooth it out. And you'll notice it does like to make kind of tall peaks unless you kind of take it out to the sides. But you just got to kind of play with that a little bit. Tease it down until you like how it is. You can take your finger if you don't mind getting paint on your fingers. I kind of hate it, but I'll take my finger and I'll kind of go around it. These little areas where it's a little thinny and you can see the base through, it's up to you if you touch those up or not. But there you go. All right, now I want to show you this trick. So I mentioned needing those lines on the bases. And what I've done here is on each of my Star Wars Legion's bases, I've put them on this piece of paper, and you'll notice, here's one we haven't done. You'll notice I have these little black tick marks that are in line. See, they're in line with the lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another clean one of these coffee sticks, and I am going to take it and line it up with those lines, and I'm looking outside the camera viewfinder for this. And I'm just going to kind of stick it down there, wiggle it a little bit side to side, and then pull it up. And you see how it's kind of making that line in the sand? You can just you can pull it up, you can choose to move it over, and you just kind of do it until you're happy with it. I wasn't really happy with how it turned out that first time. In fact, I'm going to kind of erase this and try it again. But you might have to do it a couple of times until you're really happy with it. But when you're happy with it, then leave it like that, and it'll make a little demarcation for your for your lines. So there we go. So that's a pretty good line. And it's just subtle, so it doesn't really affect the, kind of the image of the model. That's a pretty nice little ridge there. So that one's kind of more of a sticking up ridge, but you can still clearly see it. What I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to do it one more time here. Try to get it to be a little more indented. Yeah, there we go. So I like that a little bit better. So you see I now have my crosshatch there for my lines. They're not real accurate. I'm not sure that Star Wars Legion is super accurate anyways, even with the bases and stuff. So, I'm not too worried about it. I think that's going to work just fine. As long as you can see those firing arc lines, have them clearly defined on the base, I think you're good. It's just kind of one of those things that you need to play the game. And so that's my technique for doing it. That's how I did this one. I think this one turned out okay. I don't like how this line looks up here as much, but it's enough that I can tell, oh, here's my firing arc for the game, and I think that's that. So there you go. Overall, I am going to give this a very high score. This definitely, gets sort of my seal of approval, which is not really an official thing yet, because it's not that it really means much. But as far as like this channel is all about let's get gaming, let's get models on the table, this Vallejo paste is letting us do that. And, quite quickly. Like, I just did the basing here on camera, and we're still under 12 minutes for this whole video. I think that's pretty good. I can do these a lot faster off camera as well. I could have probably based, 4 of these in this time that I was talking to you. But oh well, I would happy to share this with you and kind of show you that technique. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Take care. Let's get gaming.